The F-22, not only from a technology standpoint, was providing valuable test material for the follow-on fighter, but it also is powered by two engines, one of which engine is going to be on the F-35. And here we are now talking about the issue of whether or not we should continue with a competitive second engine for an airplane that now has an engine that is being flown, has been tested by the Air Force on the F-22, and it has successfully flown on the F-22 for years now, and also has flown successfully in what limited testing has been done on the F-35. Now, we've put all of our eggs in the F-35 basket now, and as I said during the debate on the F-22, I am a big supporter of the F-35. It's a great airplane. I know it's going to succeed, but we're at a point with respect to the cost of all weapon systems that we've got to look more towards where we're going to be in future years from a cost standpoint and with regard to what we're able to provide to our men and women. And when you look at items that need to be included in the mix from a competition standpoint, there's nobody that supports competition more than I do. And that's the reason that I supported the second engine up to a point in time. But when it came up again last year, it was pretty obvious that we were at a point where the engine manufactured by Pratt & Whitney, two of which fly on the F-22, only one of which is needed for the F-35, is a good engine. It's doing the job. It's passed the test. So I decided last year that we needed to move away from the spending of the money on the second engine and let's concentrate on providing, obviously, the two engines for the F-22 and the one engine on the F-35. Now, we have something else thrown into the mix. I didn't support Senator By's amendment in committee, for what I think still is all of the right reasons from the standpoint of do we need competition for an engine that is successful, for an engine that we know is working, for an engine that we know what the cost of is today? Why do we need the second engine? Well, I know detractors have said, and they've made the argument to me that, look, that engine may fail, something may happen to that engine. And I agree that for a point in time, that could have happened. But we've been at this with respect to the engine that's powering the F-35 for years now, and it is a success. So I reached a point in time last year when I decided that we did not need the additional competition from the standpoint of the second engine, and obviously the committee reached that same result this year. Now we're changing horses a little bit more. Instead of using the discontinuance of the helicopters, the Marine helicopters, we're taking money from 6 C-130Js to fund the competitive second engine for the F-35, and the competition is going to be between the new engine that we've tested and had in production now for several years against an engine that we know to be successful. Well, Madam President, the issue has gotten even more sensitive to me because I know how critically important the C-130J is to our men and women who are in combat today, not those who might be going into combat and might need this weapon system somewhere down the road. Our men and women in theater today depend every single day on the C-130J and on the C-130Hs even, that are old airplanes that are in theater that are flying our men and women, and they are looking to get the new C-130Js to help them transport themselves as well as equipment from one part of the theater to the other, from outside the theater into the theater. Our special operations men and women are looking to the C-130J for the gunship operations that they carry out. And here we're going to say to those men and women, well, we think it's more important to have competition for a second engine against an engine that we know is successful than it is to provide you with the latest, most technologically advanced airlift capability that we can give you. Well, that makes no sense whatsoever to me from a national security standpoint. All of us have been to Iraq and Afghanistan at some point or another. I've been to Iraq 8 times. I've been to Afghanistan twice. And when we go over there, we fly into either Kuwait or into Jordan or some neighboring country. And then we're transported from that country into Iraq or into Afghanistan. And what have we flown on? What have we flown on? I would say not 99% of the time, but 100% of the time when we're transported into theater, we fly on C-130s. And all of us have had the experience of seeing date plates on C-130s that we are flying on into theater, where rockets are being fired occasionally at those weapon systems, and we've had some issues relative to that. But the date plates on those airplanes that we fly on almost consistently are in the 1960s or the 1970s. So today what we are asking our men and women to do is to fly C-130s that are 40 years old, 30 years old, or whatever it may be, that are not equipped with the latest, most technologically advanced weapon systems. And here we are saying to those men and women that we're going to take away from you the entrance of additional C-130Js into theater because we think it's important that we have competition for a second engine on the F-35. This makes absolutely no sense from either a physical standpoint or from a national security standpoint. The C-130J is a great airplane. We have 9 of them in this authorization bill. This particular amendment takes 6 of those 9 out of the bill and pays for the funding, the remainder of the funding on the second engine. That second engine is a great engine. It is performed magnificently. But it's competing with an engine that also is performing magnificently. So to say that we now ought to take a weapon system like the C-130J that our men and women depend on every single day to fly them around within Afghanistan because they need these airplanes to land, need an airplane that can land on a short runway, and the C-130 has that capability. To fly our men and women around in Iraq, to fly our men and women who carry out special operations missions and have the gunships that are the guns that are mounted on the C-130J to be transformed into a gunship. We're going to take away that capability and that need from our men and women to fund a second engine for an airplane that already has an engine on it, that is performing well, that we know is successful, that we know how much it costs today. It's not like we're going to see a reduction in price on the engine of the F-35 because we complete the testing and the procurement of an alternative engine. That's not going to happen, and that's not the issue here. The issue really comes down to the point, are we going to take, in this case, a weapon system away from our men and women to fund a second engine to compete with an engine that's already successful? And, Madam President, I would say that obviously I felt very strongly and was very emotional about the discontinuance of the F-22 for all the right reasons. But this is one of those issues that makes even less sense than the discontinuance of the F-22. We need to make sure that we spend tax money wisely. We've had the competition on the F-35. It's time we move down the road of building and procuring as many of those as we can. And with the ramp up that this bill calls for, under the direction of the chairman, we're going to be buying a lot of F-35s in a short period of time. They have a great engine on them today. It works. It's successful. That's where we need to concentrate. That's where we need to spend our money. We don't need to spend the money on the second engine, nor do we need to take 6 C-130 airplanes out of this budget to pay for an engine that we're probably never going to buy. So, Madam President, I would simply say that I would simply urge my colleagues to vote in support of the Lieberman amendment.